Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Lou Reviews, your destination and home for critical thinking in the realm of the unexplained. Please do not forget to smack that like, share, subscribe button, and ring the bell. That way you're notified anytime we go live, which is every Monday and Friday from 3 to 5. Yesterday we had a breaking news sort of episode that went completely bonkers because I don't know what the hell was going on with our internet. Right now we seem to be doing pretty good. Everything seems to be working just beautifully. Hopefully it stays that way. It's funny, as soon as I go live, it started dropping frames. Only 3% as compared to 25 yesterday. But anyway, hopefully everything stays smooth. So thank you all so damn much for being patient with that and coming back today. I want to say hello to everyone in the chat. Simon Fly, Bobby Broadway, Grace DeVars, Fifi Barbora, Archangel Reese, Morgan Marshall. Thank you guys all so much for being here. Bobby Broadway. Sorry to hear that the vetted mods don't like you. William Runner, thanks for being here, bud. Sweet McLeod, howdy. All right, so what are we going to be talking about today? Basically what we didn't get to yesterday, which is the bombshell news from John Greenewald of the Black Vault, revealing that Dave Grusch ignored and even ghosted the AARO office. And what's actually great about losing our internet yesterday is that there was a response from Christopher Mellon. So we'll be able to actually talk about that as well. So, let's see here. Also, at 4 o'clock, we're going to have Michael Huntington join the show. He is a UFO researcher, but also was at the Ozark UFO Convention where he got essentially assaulted by Rob Heatherly's son. We've got, pictures of the event. He's going to walk us through what happened. He'll be here for about a half hour or so. And yeah, that's going to be the show. So I hope you guys are excited. I am. I had a very the biggest meeting I've ever had in my life today. And I'm really excited about what's coming for the community. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm working on some really cool projects, and those projects are finally starting to look real. So there's nothing more exciting than that. And I can't wait to share this news with you guys. I am insanely excited. I'm trying to manage my expectations, but today was a good day. So let's get into it, shall we? Let's go ahead and switch views here to our ever popular Lou Reviews mode here that everybody just emails me about all the time. Is like, dude, God, looks so great. Man, it says like, share, subscribe right at the bottom of the screen, the title of their show. I mean, you put your face on Burt Reynolds, just so much positivity from my studio here. Anyway, you guys, let's get into it. Let's dive right into John Greenewald's article here that he posted on April 18th. We're going to read the whole thing because it's not that long of a read, and we're also going to read the documents that he included with this. So this is titled FOIA Documents Reveal AARO's Authorized and Repeated Attempts to Engage with David Grusch, the alleged whistleblower. And I think by the end of this, you'll hopefully agree, that David Grusch is not a whistleblower. He's just not. And let's just look at what the facts are to prove that. The AARO office was tasked to investigate UAP, made numerous attempts to interview UFO whistleblower Dave Grusch regarding his claims of the United States government engagement with extraterrestrial materials and technologies. These new documents were released to the Black Vault in FOIA Case 24F0266, which was filed on November 2nd, 2023, and they outline not only the timeline of events to contact Grusch, but numerous text messages and emails. The following is an overview and brief timeline as explained in a January 8th, 2024 memorandum for record, which was one of the documents released in the case. So this is the memorandum for record. It was on January 8th, 2024. The subject, All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, invitations to interview Mr. David Grusch. So the first All Domain, the AARO office extended multiple invitations to Mr. Grusch for the purpose of conducting an oral interview in support of the congressionally directed historical report. Invitations, both direct and through intermediaries, to interview Mr. Grusch regarding his claimed knowledge of United States government, possession of extraterrestrial material, and reverse engineering programs were met with negative results. So here are all of the times that AARO attempted to reach out to David Grusch. Let's just count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. 9 times. So the first time was June 8th through the 13th, and it was initial contact was made in 2023 with known associates of Grusch, urging them to have him speak with AARO. These efforts were clarified during dialogues between AARO's directors and individuals close to Grusch, and we learned who one of these individuals close to Grusch is. On June 22nd, or 26th, 2023, just literally less than 2 weeks later, AARO staff reached out directly for Grusch's contact details and extended an interview invitation, which Grusch declined. Okay, so again, AARO reaches out, asks for his contact details, they extend an invitation, and he declines. On June 28th, 2 days later, after Grusch's congressional testimony, AARO sought any verifiable information he might have shared with Congress. Okay, so he testifies before Congress, and then AARO starts looking at the information that he shared with Congress. On the 27th of July, 2023, further attempts to arrange an interview through another associate of Grusch who was meeting him the following day. October 6, 2023, a secure call was made to encourage Grusch to participate in the formal interview. On November 10th, 2023, Grusch agreed to be interviewed. Finally, it's taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attempts. Okay, finally, the 6th time they reach out, he's agreed to be interviewed on November 14th, okay, which is just 4 days after this, after the congressional staff urged his cooperation. Okay, so the reason why congressional staff are encouraging and urging him to cooperate with AARO is because the laws that have been written and put into place, and we're going to go over those, okay, and exactly what AARO has the right to look at and what it doesn't have the right to look at. Spoiler alert, it can look at whatever it wants, okay, and that's important because those are one of the excuses that Grusch use to ghost the office. So he agrees, okay? And this is after Congress is telling him, please meet with AARO. Like, the protections are in place. He's getting assurances from everywhere that it's okay to meet with AARO. There's no reason to distrust this organization. They are in this for the right reasons. We know that because we wrote the laws that created the office. This is what you guys asked for. And now you're refusing to participate in the process. So November 14th rolls around, 2023. Grusch failed to appear at the scheduled interview, expressing doubts in AARO's authorization to handle classified information. And that is an interesting day because it's not as simple as just that. And we'll get into it here in a second. On November 19th, 2023, 5 days after that, AARO contacted Grusch again, reiterating their authorization and inviting him to discuss his claims, which he's declined now a third time. On November 19th, AARO contacted Grusch again. Oh, no, wait, I already read that one. Excuse me. On January 28th, 8th, on January 8th, 2024, which was this year, AARO provided additional documentation to address Grusch's concerns about the confidentiality and classification handling, maintaining an invitation for an interview. Okay, so again, on the 8th of January this year, AARO is providing even more documentation to reassure and sort of address the concerns that David Grusch has. Okay, so now we've heard. I also just want to play. Where is it, real quick? Somebody had posted it. It was. Yeah. Oh yeah. Here it is, right here. Listen to this. This is just a few months ago. And again, we when this was said, we were very loud and adamant about, okay, fine. If this is true, then provide the emails, right? Like if what Sean Kirkpatrick is saying is true, which at the time was, they didn't even ask him to come in. They didn't even ask him to come in. Let's listen to what Jeremy Corbell said a few months ago on this was on April 18th, but he said this, about 2 months ago.
As of the time of my departure, none, let me repeat, none of the conspiracy-minded, in quote, whistleblowers in the public eye had elected to come to AARO to provide their, quote, evidence and statement for the record, despite numerous invitations.
So he's reading a statement from Sean Kirkpatrick and AARO about saying, we extended him invitations, 9 of them to be precise. And he declined each one. And this is Jeremy Corbell saying that's not true.
So let's just take David Grusch. Is that true? It's not true. That's a lie. So there are FOIA-able back and forths between Kirkpatrick and David Grusch that will become public. I have seen them.
He's never released them. David Grusch has never released them because guess what? John Greenewald FOIA'd them as soon as he learned about it. So all of the documentation that we're about to go over was FOIA'd. It was provided through FOIA. This is not making stuff up. These are real documents, real emails, real exchanges between these people. So here is an email, and the name of who it's from is somebody who's in the AARO office, and it's to David Grusch, and the subject is contact request. And it says, I've been waiting in the lobby over 30 minutes. Are you showing up? So they agreed to meet on the 14th of November. Writes an email saying, hey, where the hell are you? I've been sitting here for 30 minutes. What's going on? And then Dave Grusch writes back, thank you. I apologize for the confusion this morning about my whereabouts. I should have been more clear in my email on Monday. So as noted in above the email, also released in records, there was a scheduled meeting with Grusch after he finally agreed to meet. However, he never showed and seemingly even left them waiting in the lobby at the agreed meeting time and location. So there is no confusion. You guys agreed on a time, a date, and a location. They waited there for 30 minutes and then finally got in contact with you, and you write them, apologies for the confusion. There is no confusion. You fucking stood us up. Period. Full stop. Grusch later apologized in an email, but alluded to his no-show being tied to what he felt were unanswered questions that he wanted addressed prior to the meeting. After the timeline was outlined, the memorandum ended with, quote, during interactions between AARO and Mr. Grusch from November 2023 to January 24, it became evident that Mr. Grusch had no intention of providing AARO with information regarding his claims. So all of that bullshit that he spouted out in Congress and he told the American people existed and that it needs to be looked at, the people come to look at it and he refuses to give it to them and leaves them, ghosts them at a meeting time and location. Why would you do that if you've got the best evidence in the world? And you should have copies of whatever you're going to give them. So it's not like you give it to them and it's disappeared forever. You give them the copies of it. Don't give them the originals. Then they can go and look at the information. But the truth is, there is no information. There is nothing that you have that proves what you're saying is true. There's nothing there. Just a bunch of trust me, bro stories and secondhand reaccounts of things that you've heard from people. He's had no eyes on. He wasn't employed or taking part in any of these reverse engineered programs. He doesn't know where they're located. He doesn't know how they're funded. He doesn't have names of people who work there. He's got none of that stuff. But the memorandum outlining the timeline of contact attempts was not the full extent of the release. Numerous emails and text messages exchanges were provided to support the above timeline. One example of the latter were text messages between Christopher Mellon, a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, and Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, the director of AARO at the time they were written, on an encrypted text messaging system known as Signal, which it's so funny. So many things have been leaked on this encrypted text messaging system. I mean, literally screenshots. This app does not prevent screenshots, and everybody's like, "Oh, you can FOIA a discussion on Signal now?" Yeah, if that discussion is being had with a public official, yes. Yeah, it can't be FOIA'd because Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick works for the Department of Defense. And those emails and text messages were FOIA'd because it's on a government paid for telephone that he texts from. So, yeah, all of those things are very much FOIAble. And I'm sure Dr. Kirkpatrick had no issues whatsoever turning over these messages because it proves everything that he's been saying is 100% correct. These messages reveal Mellon attempting to mediate between Grusch and AARO to clarify misunderstandings about AARO's legal capacities. Note, Mellon's texts are in gray and Kirkpatrick's are in blue and white. So this is from Mellon. I spoke with Dave and his first question was, quote, why hadn't... and you can't see it, all the info from the ICIG, is it all there and fully documented to include confirmation the program is real from active, cleared insiders? Kirkpatrick writes back, DOJ has to release it since it's part of the criminal investigation. They haven't yet. He needs to come tell us separate from the criminal complaint. So basically, Grusch is like, well, what about the ICIG complaint? And he's like, that's got nothing to do with us, okay? That is part of a separate criminal investigation that has nothing to do with the reverse engineered programs and the people that he's talking about. He needs to come tell us separately from the criminal complaint. Chris Mellon writes, he obviously doesn't have to do so, and he even said, quote, how do I know Sean is not a target for an ongoing criminal investigation? However, that being said, I explained your request regarding having his attorney contact OGC and suggested he do so in full cooperation. He said that if you could provide OGC's contact info, he'll pass it to his attorney. By the way, he also said his claims about contacting you dates to a conversation the two of you had many months ago on a Tandberg. on a Tandberg system, and you didn't follow up after that call. I'm not trying to adjudicate that issue, just telling you what he said. Apparently, that is why his statement was referring to. So if you could provide an OGC email or phone number, I'll get that to Dave right away, and hopefully his attorney will promptly contact OGC. So Christopher Mellon is playing monkey in the middle. He's like the child between two parents that aren't talking right now. It's crazy. But it seems like for whatever reason, Sean or Dave Grusch thinks Sean Kirkpatrick might be the target of an ongoing criminal investigation, which isn't true. That never panned out. And then also seems to be upset by a message system within the government that they had months ago, in which apparently Sean Kirkpatrick didn't follow up. The very next thing out of Sean Kirkpatrick's mouth is incredible. All of that is both absurd and false. I have had a conversation with him for years. I'm assuming that means haven't. I haven't had a conversation with him for years. If he wants this brought out and investigated, then yes, he obviously does have to. He continued refusal to speak with us only hurts his case. So if he wants this investigated, yes, he does have to come speak with us, because that's what's mandated by Congress. And by the way, that's what you asked for, Christopher Mellon. You literally helped write the laws that are making this communication possible. And his refusal to speak with us only hurts his case. He continues, I've contacted congressional OGC to reach out to him so they can explain the law. I haven't had a conversation for years. Okay? So he's lying about that. Through Mellon, Grusch was asking why AARO just did not get their information from the Inspector General's office. As Kirkpatrick then explained, due to the criminal investigation aspect of the material, they would not have access to it until the IG decided to release it. However, Kirkpatrick explained that Grusch is still able to give his testimony directly to AARO outside of the criminal investigation. Kirkpatrick labels Grusch's assertion and Mellon's response to him absurd and false. He continues to write, Sean Kirkpatrick, I'm not giving my contact info out given the harassment and threats. That's why we have a secure mechanism. And then responds directly to the obviously he doesn't have to. And how do I not know Sean is not part of an ongoing criminal investigation? He writes, and yes, you are defending and adjudicating, and you are undermining the very organization you purported to help establish for this purpose. Like, you're the guy who created this, man, and you're playing fucking patty cake with David Grusch. Tell him to get his ass in here and testify. The longer he waits, the worse it looks. We've reached out to him 9 fucking times. Where is he? Chris Mellon responds to that. Really? Odd. I try to bring everyone to AARO I can. I'm trying to help put Dave in touch with your GC if you could provide simple contact info. This is info that David Grusch already has. This is info that you already have. You don't need to get this from Kirkpatrick. But even if that is the case, they've already sent it to you. This is the 9th time, or this is one of 9 times that they've reached out already. I'm not judging the claims between you and Dave, and have not claimed his claims are accurate. I've said he is sincere and credible in his and other claims, which I expressly called, quote, allegations. warrant investigation. I have no idea what you and Dave have discussed or when, and I'm not asking to take a position on that or even the underlying claim of recovering materials. So I'm kind, and this is where the message cuts off, which, by the way, John Greenewald is foying the rest of whatever this says here. But in the second message, it continues, Dave can now say, quote, Sean has refused to provide me or my attorney the contact information that would allow us to discuss legal concerns we have with providing testimony to AARO. I'm not your enemy, and I'm not trying, and I'm not saying this to provoke or irritate you. Moreover, having once been the similar jobs, I recognize you have a big pile of work and responsibility on your plate. I only mention this because it seems you must have some legal representation, and assuming they are competent, it seems to me a discussion it would help to get Dave's testimony into your system. That, it seems to me, should be a win for all. This is like, this has got to be insanely frustrating for Kirkpatrick. Like, this office exists, his position exists because of the legislation that Christopher Mellon helped write. He was the one lobbying it to Senator Gillibrand and Rubio. They're the ones who helped get it into the NDAA and signed and passed into law. And now the AARO office is telling David Grusch, guy, you have to come in and testify outside of the criminal investigation from the ICIG, which, by the way, has nothing to do with your claims of extraterrestrial non-human biologics. And you have to come in and testify, and it doesn't matter the programs that you're going to come tell us about. We have the authorization to look and hear about those programs. We have the classification, and there is a letter provided that more than establishes their legal right to know about any illegal reverse engineered programs of alien technology, if they exist, which they don't. But in that process, if you give them a program name, if you give them a place to look, they have the authority to go to wherever you tell them and verify if what you're saying is accurate. They can do that. And the only reason to not come in and tell them that is because you have nothing to tell them. You have no actual facts. And David Grusch is doing anything and everything to not go into that office. And then publicly, while all this is going down, he's telling everybody, yeah, they won't bring me in. The AARO office refuses to bring me in. And at the time, people like John Greenewald and myself were asking, well, why don't you just release the emails? If you tried to get an interview so you could tell them all of the secrets, where are the emails, where are the text messages, contacting them and asking and officially asking to be interviewed? And where are the responses from that office going, nah, we're not interested. Like, that should have been very simple for David Grusch to provide evidence for. And honestly, if he had at that time, it would have made people like me go, okay, what the fuck's going on? He's trying to give this information to the office that was created to receive it, and they're refusing it? That would be a red flag. That would make me go, that's strange. Why are they doing that? But that's not what's happening. The AARO office is begging this guy to come in, confirm the date and time and location, and he ghosted them. It's insane that at this point, we can trust this guy. If you're trusting Grusch over Kirkpatrick, man, you are blind to just basic, simple information. So this right here is a memorandum that was written by Major General David W. Alba. And this memorandum is basically outlining the legal rights and the authorization that the AARO office has. And this is a memorandum basically telling no whistleblower should fear this office. They're not here to ruin careers. They're here to find and verify claims. So this is from the Office of the Secretary of Defense. Subject: authorization to provide information to personnel representing the AARO Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security. Number 1, representatives of the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office are authorized to speak to persons and or conduct interviews of persons that currently have or previously had access to sensitive U.S. government information, activities, and or materials. Boom. Number 1. They have a right to look at it. They're authorized to look at it. You're allowed to tell them about it, and you're not going to get in trouble for doing so. Number 2, individuals with current or previous access to unidentified aerial phenomena related information is subject to United States government non-disclosure agreement are authorized to provide this otherwise protected information to the AARO representatives. So if you have an NDA and you are part of a reverse engineering program of alien materials and you have signed an NDA that threatens your life in some of them, you can still talk about it with AARO. And AARO has the power and the capacity to dig into those programs and verify or add clarity to your claims. AARO personnel are authorized to receive this information pursuant to Section 1673 of the NDAA for fiscal year 23. The provision of UAP-related information, which is subject to NDA, to AARO personnel constitutes an authorized disclosure of the information is provided and received for a limited purpose of conducting AARO's assigned mission as specified in 1683 of the NDAA fiscal year 22 as amended by section 6802 of the NDAA fiscal 23. So remember in 22 when people were like, oh, there's not enough protections for whistleblowers and people who have NDAAs. Well, it was amended and fixed for 2023. AARO representatives, this is number 3, AARO representatives will conduct any conversation, interview, or disclosure of USG sensitive information by an individual only within appropriate, secure spaces and handled in accordance with the regulations applicable to the alleged classification level of the potentially sensitive information, e.g., if the individual providing the information indicates that he or she believes the information to be shared is classified, top secret, special access required. The AARO representatives will handle the information in accordance with such level and intake at intake and until the classification can be determined. In other words, if it's that classified, we'll take you to a skiff, and we could do it the right way. We could talk about this by the board. And if the information that you're telling us is true, you will be provided protection by the United States government, and you will be considered a whistleblower and the most famous person on the planet. Because all of those findings have to be then reported to Congress. And then there has to be a public version of that told to the American people. This is law. Number 4, persons in contact with or interviewed by AARO representatives are advised that they are to continue safeguarding classified and sensitive information in accordance with the U.S. law in terms of any applicable NDA. An individual's authorized disclosure of sensitive information to AARO's representatives as outlined in this memorandum is no way impacts that individual's responsibility to protect and safeguard classified information from unauthorized disclosure. In other words, just because you tell AARO doesn't mean you can go tell other people. It has to go through the proper channels. And also, no one's going to fuck with you. Like, they can't. They legally can't. This is coming from the Office of the Secretary of Defense. So John writes, the detailed FOIA documents, including the timeline of engagements and the text messages with Christopher Mellon, demonstrate AARO's persistent and legally supported efforts to involve David Grusch in the investigation. Despite these efforts, Grusch's refusal to cooperate based on disputed claims about AARO's authority raises more questions about the discrepancies between his public statements and his actions. The memorandum affirming AARO's authorization to receive classified information is a critical piece of evidence supporting the office's capacity to conduct its mandated tasks, reinforcing AARO's role in the ongoing UAP investigations. Numerous attempts by the Black Vault in the past to contact David Grusch about his claims have never been returned. No attempt was made to contact him for this specific article, as all other methods have been exhausted. The results of the appeal on the above case will be posted when available. The response to this has been crazy. One in particular from Chris Mellon here, and this is just, classic. So he responds, to my surprise, parts of a conversation I had with Dr. Kirkpatrick on Signal were recently made public via FOIA request. These are messages simply relate to my effort to facilitate a meeting between AARO and David Grusch at Dr. Kirkpatrick's request. Why can't Kirkpatrick directly do this himself? He's a man, right? Why does he need Christopher Mellon to handle this for him? It's so silly. I don't give out people's contact info without their consent, but I told Sean I would be happy to convey his request to Dave. My recollection is that Dave was going to consult his attorney and proceed from there. Dave has an excellent attorney, so if he was advised by counsel not to meet with AARO or others, I certainly don't blame him. I was in a position to judge the legal arguments and issues involving conflicting ICIG, DOJ, and AARO jurisdiction and claims. I was simply trying to facilitate communications in the hopes of helping the congressionally mandated investigation. What you should have done is told Dave Grusch to stop being a bitch and go in and talk to these guys. Because why? Because I helped write the laws that are going to protect you, Dave. That's why. I helped write those laws. You shouldn't have this conversation with Kirkpatrick. Kirkpatrick's just the guy trying to get the information. You should be having these conversations directly with Dave Grusch. Like, everybody should be telling him to go testify to AARO. Same thing with Lou Elizondo. And where are the 40 other whistleblowers? Where are they? Are they all... If they have the same mindset as Dave Grusch, I can understand why none of them have come forward, because none of them have anything. They just have trust me, bro stories and belief. That's all they have. They don't have any real evidence. Zero. That's why everybody's ignoring the AARO office. It's a joke. And there have been so many and one in particular, let's just highlight this because this is Matt Ford, and he's been on a tear just ripping the hell out of John Greenewald because he can't handle facts. And he's also having a show today with UAP mental health experts, whatever the fuck that means. Let's see here. Where did he write this bullshit? Yeah, right. I was actually thinking the person carrying water for Dave Grusch was Daniel Miller. Man, the arguments that guy makes is just, they're so gross. God, he'd put something out here. Maybe it's on John Greenewald's page here. Yeah, right here. So I guess they deleted this. They wrote Pentagon useful idiot. This is Matt Ford. Pentagon useful idiot John Greenewald of the Black Vault is still stirring the pot again. The Good Trouble Show and Chris Sharp explained months ago the real reason Dave Grusch would not go to AARO, but John spins to cast doubt on Grusch. And then continues here, maybe he should focus his time on dildo sales. Now, you wonder, where did he get that from? Why would he say something like that? So there's this rumor about John Greenewald that's what his real business is that he's a dildo salesman, which is funny. It is funny, but it's not true. And the reason why people think it's true is because of shit like this. And this was from last year. When it comes to UFOs, this is John Greenewald. When it comes to UFOs, the more sensational the claims by someone, the more following they get regardless of evidence. That large following should not indicate they're telling you truth. Please remember that when exploring new and even old people within this topic. George Knapp responds to that. Good advice, John. And again, this is journalistic integrity, right? The peak of journalistic integrity in UFO land. George Knapp. Good advice, John. I would also advise many people to be wary of sex toy salesmen. Many of those products are made in Asian sweatshops, and Chinese agents may have infiltrated the supply chain. Someone should file a FOIA request. This is the response you get when you put truth out there from a fucking seasoned journalist. This is what you get. Fuck you, George Knapp. I know John Greenewald will never say that, but I will. Fuck you. It's no wonder why people feel empowered to say whatever the fuck they want to John Greenewald. And all he's simply doing is FOIAing these things. He didn't create those emails. He didn't create those messages between Kirkpatrick, Mellon, and Grusch. He didn't fucking ignore the AARO office. Grusch did that. He didn't lie about AARO refusing to see him. Grusch lied about that. You can't be angry at John Greenewald. All he's doing is providing the facts. Simply providing facts. Art and Paranormal, thank you for being here and being my mod. You're the best. Oopsie. So real quick, before Michael Huntington gets here in about 15 minutes, I wanted to play this from yesterday. We got into the congressional responses before the stream just started going absolute haywire. But this is, again, Tim Burchett on his classified briefing with lawmakers on UFOs in a skiff. Let's listen to this. This is from News Nation, and I'm also going to put up our fair use banner. Fair use. This is transformative work. We are educating the public on the videos that we are sharing. This is covered under fair use and allowable by law.
Joining us now is Republican Congressman Tim Burchett. He attended that classified briefing. Congressman, great to see you and talk with you as always. Thanks for being back with us here on the Hill. So it's classified. I know you can't get into details. We get that. We understand it. But after being in that briefing and now you're out of it, were you satisfied with what you heard?
No, it's always compartmentalized. We can't get to certain things. I don't really think of these people are lying. I think there's a lot of arrogance that kind of whirls around this so-called intelligence community. But what they do is they've compartmentalized it so that each department, they can only answer your question up to a certain point, and you can't get everybody in the skiff at the same time to answer the question. So no, I mean, I was almost falling asleep in the meeting. It was just so mundane and boring, and a lot of the things they told us, they explained some things that went on that were just like, okay, well then why are you having to tell us this in the skiff? Why can't you tell the American public that? And it's just
so do you think
complete disinformation. Go ahead.
Do you think your time spent on this, because there's a lot of time that you and the rest of the UAP caucus have spent to try to get answers. And every time I speak with you, Congressman, when you go to these classified briefings, you walk out and you're disappointed. And I wonder if you think that this is a waste of time.
Why don't you ask him, could it be because you don't sit on any of the security committees and subcommittees that would have access to this information, Mr. Burchett? Could that be why you're kind of getting the same information over and over again? Because you don't have the access, and you don't have just the wherewithal to put two and two together from an intelligence standpoint.
Do you feel that there's a cover-up going on, something in between? What is it?
Yeah, I think there's a cover-up. There's tens of millions of dollars that
there's
we spend investigating these things. We've had departments tell us that they have recovery units, but yet they won't release full reports. Everything's covered up. Your reports look like somebody shot it with a 12-gauge shotgun. So, of course, I think there's a cover-up. What it is, I don't know. I've said many times, it's not about the little green men or the flying saucers. It's about what the heck are they spending all this dadgum money on, and why.
National defense, Tim. A drone issue, Tim. Our adversaries are sending over drone systems that are infiltrating Langley Air Force Base. How do you not understand this? And if you don't understand this, again, you've got to be one of the dumbest lawmakers out there if you cannot understand this. And you can't read the room when it comes to the lawmakers that do sit on the committees and subcommittees for this.
Why won't they release it? That's the real questions that need to be asked. Until we have a commander-in-chief that'll release them, I don't think we're going to get them.
Why do you think there's a cover-up?
A lot of reasons. If say it is extraterrestrial, there's a lot of money to be made from somebody else's technology that you don't have to spend any money to get. And there might be the fact they don't understand what's going on, and there might be the fact that it's just plain arrogance, and they don't think we deserve it. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with high-ranking officials that have told me that America really can't handle this stuff, Congressman. We really just need to be real careful about it. And it's not their position to tell me who or what I can handle. We're Americans. We ought to be able to take it. Give it to us. I'm tired of it.
Real quick, Congressman, what's next?
Scientists.
Well, hopefully we'll have some hearings about this. They're just trying to run the clock out, which we said they were going to do. And we'll keep, as long as some of us are still in Congress, they don't run us off, we'll continue trying to get the answers. And look, I just want transparency. That's what you and the media ought to ask for. That's what the taxpayers should ask for.
Literally, that's what we've gotten this last week, especially. Well, this whole year from in the AARO office. We've gotten a lot of transparency. I mean, for fuck's sake, they told us about Kona Blue. They told us about Kona Blue. Like, that's a pretty, Shane, what's up, buddy? Thanks for, who'd you gift a membership to? Thanks for being here. Thanks for the gifting. Yeah, again, more silly shit. I wanted to go over this because, again, this is like this. Here's Richard Dolan. Speaking of Kona Blue, here's Richard Dolan adding conspiracy theory and hearsay to something that was never funded. And we read this yesterday. An office was never created. It was a prospective program. Like it never existed. It never got off the ground. It never got funding. In fact, it was looked at, laughed at, and said, no, thanks. We already did that with OSAP. We're good. Like, we don't need to look at this pseudoscience anymore. No, thank you. Please go away. But this is what people like Richard Dolan do on the Jimmy Church show. And this is kind of part of the reason why Christina and I really don't interact much anymore. It's not that I dislike her or that I hate her. It's just like this is not the kind of ufology I want to be associated with. It's just not. I want to be associated with ufology at all because it's a hobby. It's a hobby, but not to these guys. Just listen to this.
I have a feeling. I mean, this is not to malign any of the people involved. I mean, Robert.
Again, fair use. We are critiquing the videos that we are sharing. This is covered under fair use and allowable by law.
Bigelow's a brilliant man. Putoff is a brilliant man and is a friend of mine. I admire Hal. And a lot of these other folks, they're amazing. But I think they were not welcome to the party. That's what I suspect. I think that this type of program undoubtedly, I'm assuming, exists. Any of the people involved.
Listen to what he just said.
Other folks, they're amazing.
This program undoubtedly, I assume, exists.
But I think
he was just on Kurt Mungo explaining why, he hasn't gotten frustrated. Moondust, thank you for becoming a member. I think that's the one that Shane might have just gifted you. So either way, thank you to both of you. This is just so stupid.
They were not welcome to the party. That's what I suspect. I think that this type of program undoubtedly, I'm assuming, exists in some form or in multiple forms, but just not them. I suspect that there's political machinations going on. There is some resistance to bringing in more this group of people for whatever reason. And I suspect that the question that was totally redacted, I'm just guessing. I mean, this is, you can really see that there's a deep, deep knowledge of this phenomenon by the authors of this stuff.
The guys who authored this are the same assholes from OSAP in the Bigelow era and the ATIP era. Same dickheads. And they're using the same theories and the same bullshit. They amped it up. They called it something else other than OSAP. They called it Kona Blue. And they really lobbied fucking hard to get millions from taxpayers. Another set of millions. They already stole 22 million the first time. Now they're back for seconds. Fuck you, Richard Dolan. And fuck you, Jimmy Church, for putting shit like this out there. Fucking bullshit. It's bullshit. The way you guys just put people down these fucking conspiracy holes. Literally, the paper, they give you all of the information and tell you it never got off the ground. It was never funded because it's pseudoscience bullshit. And you say, undoubtedly, this program is real on some level. Fuck you guys.
Document. They're sophisticated. We didn't even get into the consciousness connection.
We didn't even get into the consciousness part, which we've gotten into a billion times before. But this is on a fucking government paper that was written by a bunch of loonies. So therefore, we must attach some kind of credibility to it. What a joke.
Aerospace or, aviation vehicles, which is that sounds so out there, but to these guys, that's run of the mill. Like this kind of idea is not that shocking to them. I mean, it's interesting. I don't want to say run of the mill, but it's not like they have to have these hurdles to believe it. And I suspect that whatever they wrote in question number 6 was something that to them was quite obvious, but that to the people in charge of the security classifications was like, no. This is not going out to the general public. I suspect it might even include a direct recognition.
No. This is not going out to the general public when it was literally released to the general public in hopes to get ahead of bullshit like this. Because, again, if Kona Blue had leaked, it would have been a sign. Imagine what Richard Dolan would be saying today. Just imagine what Jimmy Church would be saying today if those leaked instead of were just put out there by the Department of Defense to beat the punch of conspiracy theorists like Richard Dolan. It's incredible. Incredible. 2 seconds here. All right, got that there. We got Michael Huntington in the house. I'm going to bring him up here in a couple minutes, but let's listen to the rest of this.
Or a direct acknowledgement of an ET reality or something like that.
Right. Which
all those people know. They don't think, they don't hope, they don't think. They know this is real, and they know there are non-human intelligences operating here.
Yeah, they know. Who's they? George Knapp, Bob Bigelow, Lou Elizondo, Travis Taylor, Eric Davis, Hal Puthoff. All of those guys know that this stuff is real. They know because they already duped the government once and a lawmaker once to get $22 million out of the government. Now they're going for a bigger number. And Kona Blue failed. But don't worry. We've got Ryan Graves and all of these other pilots and Lou Elizondo for round 3. We're going to get the funding for round 3. You'll see. And they're close. I think they're close, but I think it's going to be no cigar. But only time will tell. Okay. Let us bring up round 3. We're going to get Michael Huntington. If you can switch your speaker off, Mike, that'd be great. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to shut off my camera on this side so that way we don't get any crazy internet things like we did yesterday. So real quick before we bring Michael up, a little background. Michael Huntington is the paranormal travel writer, a blogger and UFO researcher from Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and has investigated the unusual since the late 70s. He has traveled to hundreds of places in the United States with his family, documenting strange locations and lost lore, building a paranormal location GPS research database with multiple thousands of locations. Michael has been a guest on dozens of paranormal, cryptid, and UFO related radio programs, including Somewhere in the Skies and Spaced Out Radio and UFO Classified, and has appeared on television discussing UFOs and has been interviewed for several documentaries, including the cryptid feature Momo, the Missouri Monster, and the quote on the Trail of UFOs documentary series produced by Small Town Monsters, as well as Creature from Big Muddy film and Creature from the Big Muddy film and the upcoming Grand Tower UFO documentary produced by Red Room Media. Michael has researched the UFO mystery for over 47 years and frequently writes on the issues related to the reform of ufology and improving rational methodology. Michael's writings and photography work can be found on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the Strange Travel blog, the occasional print media, and the upcoming Strange Travel projects. So without further ado, let us welcome Michael Huntington. Michael, how are you doing, sir? Oh, yeah, I think you're on mute. You're muted.
There we go. How about that?
There we go. All right, we got you.
All right,
Man, thanks for being here. I know this is sort of a weird request because we probably should have brought you on earlier before this, but when I heard what happened to you, I was just flabbergasted and concerned because these are some of the things that I've been talking about here for a while on the show, and that, you know, like these, for lack of better terms, I think UFO cultish behavior. I don't know if I call them cult members, but after the experience you had at the Ozark UFO convention, I think, I don't know, I'll let you label it what you think it is, but thanks for being here. And I just also want to start out by saying that, look, I know you and I don't agree on this topic. I think that's clear as day. But the thing that I love about you is that every single interaction I've had with you has been positive. Am I wrong on that? Have we ever had an interaction where either one of us has been rude to each other?
Well, actually, I think I was one of the first people to welcome you when you started becoming active in UFO Twitter, and I thought it was good to get a good voice. You have a good speaking voice, and you're a good conversationalist. So you came into the community, and I think you sort of went down that disclosure path.
Yeah.
That a lot of people were sort of keyed into, post 2018, 2019 or so. And you started your disclosure projects and all that. And I think I was there for all of them for pretty much most of your UCR shows, and I was vocal and critical, I think, at times in your chat, but I try to be collegial. I try to avoid the name calling. I prefer that people have differences of opinion based on the merits of what you're discussing, and I think that you should be professional and cordial and collegial, and even if somebody's on a different side of a belief spectrum, nobody is going to agree on everything.
Right.
And I've been in this long enough to know that really there is no singular belief system. There are many ideas as to what is legitimate or what is not, what is the cause, what is not the cause, as there are cases throughout the history of this subject. We can go back and look through this subject. We can look at all the people making claims. We can look at the evidence, and we can all have different ideas. And ultimately, we're not going to have the same interpretation of things. And the only way to go forward to try to determine likelihoods, most of this stuff we're not going to figure out. Most of the classic cases throughout history, we're not going to get answers for.
Right.
Even if you expect some, day of disclosure confirmation from politicians, a la Hollywood with some sort of, sci-fi big revelation, even that is not going to be trustworthy enough because people are going to have different interpretations, even within, the conspiracy realm. So we need to understand that there's a lot of different viewpoints out there, and there have been a lot of people that have come into this subject within the past 5 years especially, and they come in waves, influenced into the subject by the media culture and the UFO celebrity culture and the cult of personality that goes with that. And there are a lot of people that have bought into the UAP disclosure narrative with all the heroes and the villains and all that sort of stuff. So I think that's disconcerting. I love this subject. I think it's a legitimate subject. It's a field of study. It's not just a cause. It's not just one particular camp. There's a lot of people that, especially on like UFO Twitter, that you're not seeing. There are thousands of people that will have nothing to do with that. And they are legitimate researchers that have been around for decades. Right. That are knowledgeable on this subject, as opposed to, within the new social media stuff, we got all these instant experts because they just happen to believe and have a platform. So I challenge this stuff, but I always try to be a reformer that is trying to work within his own family, to try to make things better, to try to understand different opinions, and to challenge those people that are manipulating, to challenge those people that are being disingenuous, to challenge those people who may follow those people, to challenge all of us to be more critical in our thinking, and to, there are exploitation groups, within this subject. There always have been. There are cults within this subject.
Yeah.
Belief groups that it's all about the belief, that it's not about a scientific mystery at all, or defense spending. It's about their own personal spiritual development. So anybody who's been around long enough has understood that there are issues with the intelligence community. There are issues with manipulation and UFOtainment, how it corrupts the truth, and definitely cultism that shuts people's thinking down and gets them emotional. And within this climate, it has the potential, not just the potential, it's getting to where there's like violence,
right?
And there's this rhetoric of just emotion. I don't know of any skeptics that have attacked believers.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, I've never heard of a skeptic stabbing his father 50-something times because he didn't believe his lizard people theory.
And there's a lot of that throughout the history. I mean, we have traditional cults, and there's Heaven's Gate, and a lot of different groups that certainly are out there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of beliefs that are out there. And I think a prevalent one is this conspiracy theory notion that the government is, holding stuff. And there's a big cabal conspiracy that is willing to kill people to cover up aliens and that reality. And throughout history, they've done that. And right. it's a narrative within the subject of UFOs that has sort of been codified, as opposed to just being speculative as it should be with a lot of this stuff, because you're dealing with conspiracy theories, and conspiracy culture in this age does have sort of a dangerous component, especially with the social media stuff.
Right.
I've been doxxed and harassed and threatened and all that online. A lot of people have, because they have spoken out against Lou or Cahill or Knapp or Corbell, or the people within this UAP narrative. That itself is sort of a rebrand, a control mechanism, to move it away from UAP to redefine it into a controlled way that is right. applied with these observables that they decide, but I'm a ufologist. I've been researching UFOs, and people see objects, not these military things. But I go off on a tangent. Back to the issue here. The climate is it's sort of sad, and there is a personality cult around a lot of these disclosure principles, and they may take a back seat and claim that they're above it and distant from it, but they're in constant communication with these underlings.
Yeah. They're fueling it.
And they're fueling it. And we know that they have lists.
Yeah.
We know that they have targeted people. We know that the people that speak out get targeted. All forms of harassment, beyond just, memes or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's sort of scary. And I can talk about what happened in Ozark.
That's a perfect sort of segue into why I asked you to come on. And to be honest, we got to have you back on and just have a full 2-hour discussion, because I'd love to pick your brain about the best evidence out there in the history of ufology and how we could sort of maybe bridge some gaps. I don't think we'll come into total agreement. Like you said, nobody is. And that's
here's the
I'm
thing.
not looking to change minds, just like I'm sure you aren't.
Right. Well, I was just going to say that, there is no one view or one camp.
Right.
Everybody has this idea. Mick West is very much a part of this community as anybody else.
Right. I agree.
Because he's into this subject. He's a student of it. He wants to look at the evidence, So there's a lot of people with a lot of different interpretations, including skeptical. And those of us who have been around long enough realize that, like 90% of the stuff out there has prosaic explanation to it. So you have to maintain a level of skepticism, and especially if you've been burnt in the past. That's what it is. And but anyway,
well, okay, so over the was it this last weekend that you went to the Ozark Paranormal Festival? Okay, so you made your way there. I noticed that you'd also brought your son, and you have how many kids do you have? One?
I have 3 boys. I have a 13-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 1.5-year-old.
Amazing. That's great. So this was a family trip that you guys paid for. And did the kids have to pay to get into the convention as well?
Well, they have an open session to it. Where if you want to see the lectures, you have to buy the ticket. But, the vending area is open, and that's where all the cool stuff is, the alien gear and whatnot. But no, we've been coming to this for
years,
many years.
Yeah. Okay. And so one of the presentations that you went into was a presentation on the WikiLeaks by Rob Heatherly. Is that correct?
I did not go into a presentation on WikiLeaks.
Okay.
I went into a presentation for the keynoter, which was supposed to be Sean Cahill.
Got it. And he bailed.
Everybody is right there to the moment of the introduction anticipating Sean Cahill, and Forrest Crawford, who was wearing a Nanu hat throughout the entire event. Yeah,
which is a Sean Cahill organization, or at least one that he's part of.
And that's fine. He can endorse whatever he wants. But he gets up there and he's just, I forgot to tell you, Sean Cahill's not going to make it.
Okay, so they charged everybody for the keynote speaker that is supposed to be Sean Cahill. They collect everybody's money, not telling anybody that he's not there. And then once everybody sits down, he gets up to the mic and says, "Okay, everybody, I forgot to tell you, but Sean Cahill's not here. Instead, we have drum roll, please."
Well. Yeah, and everybody's sort of looking around like dumbstruck. I don't know if they told people at the door, but certainly there's a lot of people there who bought tickets ahead of time, like myself, because you can reserve your seats. Not like sitting in the same seat each year because I can take photographs.
To be fair to an organization like this, I mean, even when you go to like wrestling matches or basketball games, the ticket will say in fine print, "Hey, these people are subject to change, because people get sick, people get hurt." So that's totally understandable. But if people are buying tickets at the door and they're expecting Sean Cahill, you would figure somebody at the door would be like, "Hey guys, we're so sorry. Sean Cahill couldn't make it, but hey, we've got this killer guest and this is what he's talking about."
Well, but we ain't there yet. But up comes Forrest is like, and people can go back and check these videos out because I'm sure they will be available for sale at some point.
Yeah, but of course they will be.
Forrest was like, but instead we have these fellows here who are going to stand in their stead, something like that, and they have an important message. And I'm like, what? And everybody's looking around, kind of rolling their eyes. Some people are leaving.
Wow.
And up comes, and you've seen some of the pictures I sent you.
Yep, which I'll share now. You won't be able to see them, but the audience will.
Okay. Shannon Scott and Rob Heatherly, and I'm like, oh, great. And they got their like AP veterans thing uniform on, and it's like, wait a second. I thought Sean Cahill, and he was here, like he was like there last year, and he gave a presentation, and it was sort of like, I don't know, kind kind of strange, but I don't know if he was going to give the same one, like it was a second chance at it, but it was supposed to be, why does God need a spaceship or something? I guess like the Star Trek thing. So
Right. Right.
I came there to see that. I drove across 2 states to see that because I wanted to hear it. I wanted to interact with Sean Cahill.
Right.
I wanted to ask some questions. I wanted to know, like, how knowledgeable is he of the subject?
Right.
If he's up there as an expert, I want to know, what the deal is. Does he agree with Lou that ufology should be destroyed? Why was he yelling at Melinda Leslie?
Right.
Like a bunch of different questions that I wanted to know. I wanted to try to figure out, what the deal was with this guy. Why is he at the Monroe Institute all the time, right? Or who has he been there with? Or how many people? Just UFO type questions to get him on the record, right?
Yeah, and those are fair questions.
And I didn't get that opportunity, so I sat there and everybody started sitting there, and Rob Heatherly just starts talking about Wiki.
Yeah. So.
And it's like, oh my God. And I'm a UFO guy, and I've been following this stuff on Twitter, and I don't want to hear about it. And you have all these people that are like in their 50s and their 60s, and they don't even use Wiki, So
right.
rolling their eyes like, what's going on? And
this is the keynote. This is like the biggest event that's happening at this con, right?
Well, yeah, he's the Friday keynote, and they had a second keynote Saturday, which is Kevin Day. And that was fun. That was interesting.
Did Kevin Kevin showed up?
Yeah, Kevin Day was there.
That's interesting. And was Rob Heatherly? Do you know if did you find out if Rob Heatherly was there just as an ongoer, or was he asked to be there by Sean and they sort of paid him to be there? Was he like,
well, when they were introduced and Forrest called them up there to say, I think they have an important message. He also mentioned, when he introduced him, was like, this is Scott Heatherly, whatever, and he's like, if you notice their name tags, I don't know which is which, but one of them was wearing Lou's and one of them was wearing Sean's.
Oh my God! Lou was supposed to be there.
Yeah, and then they said that, which is like a double surprise thing, which is like, what? Because it made you feel even bad. Well, Lou was supposed to be here too, but he's also sick. So, and people are like, what? So they sort of promised that he's going to be there next year, but it was like, oh man, I felt really pissed. Like Lou and Shaw were going to be there. I would have loved to ask some questions.
Oh man, that would have been great if you were there.
Because it's on camera. And this is a traditional, this is the second oldest UFO conference in America.
Wow.
Next to the MUFON symposiums. So this is a traditional, well-established a conference that has, a little bit of woo here and some serious science stuff going on.
Okay. Well, can I ask you real quick? I noticed that they're wearing the same shirt, the same polo. Do you know what their polo said?
Yeah, I think it said like veteran witnesses of UAP. So I guess they're starting a veterans group, which is something I would love to talk about too, because I don't think you should use the veteran thing to shut down this arguments. Just because you're a veteran doesn't mean
you can't be wrong.
Yeah,
right. Or you're incapable of lying.
Right. And we'll see that may be the case here. But back to the Heatherly,
Okay, so he starts going on about WikiLeaks, right? And people are like bored, rolling their eyes. They're kind of upset about this.
Because he's not saying anything.
He's not saying anything, right? Yeah, exactly. And he didn't say anything even when he made the presentation on Matt Ford's show. Like, it's just a bunch of nothing. And they refuse to debate the person they're talking about, which is also just another red flag.
Yeah, and I didn't come there for Wiki, and neither did the other people. We came there for UFOs, not political movements, not a specific group influenced by IC people.
Right.
Some of us don't like that at our UFO conferences.
Right.
We like to have UFOs on the stage. That's what we're here to talk about. We're not here to talk about your wiki thing, And so I took a picture and I put it on Twitter, and I probably sent that, and I said, it was supposed to be Sean, but instead we got these guys, and I said they're gibbering about wiki, and then he started. I'm not even listening.
Yeah. And just for the record, this is the actual thing you tweeted was Sean Cahill with surprise guest Lou Elizondo both canceled at Ozark due to illness. Instead, we have these fellows, Scott and Heatherly, gibbering about wiki conspiracies and attacking Mick West in a public forum.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay. So that's all you wrote. And then, okay.
That was the post that I wrote.
Okay. And this was, you posted that as they were speaking.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what happened?
So, it was just, he's up there, and I'm like, okay, whatever. And my wife texts me like a half an hour, 40 minutes into it, and she's like, are you going to be close to being done for dinner? I'm like, I'm done now. So I left.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to hear Trump conspiracy theory, anti-skeptic stuff. And there was a lot of that this year. And it was kind of scary. It was like, a lot of that debunker jingoism and rhetoric. And it's like, are you supposed to believe a certain way about everything?
Right.
Are you supposed to, agree with these certain personalities? And so I left, and I went and had dinner with my family and did other stuff at the conference. I went to the after party and interacted with people. It's a tradition there where people, Heatherly and those guys weren't there. I never talked to them.
Right.
So after this incident, I didn't confront him or ask him any questions at all. I simply said, we have these guys gibbering and I'm leaving. Right. And that's what I did.
Okay. So then you left. And then what happened?
Well, the next day, it's a 3-day long conference, So the next day, I attend a lecture. I trying to think of who it was. Might have been like Nick Pope or somebody.
Yeah, who showed up in his little sports car. I saw.
Well, yeah, that's just an interesting thing, but
yeah.
So there's like a break. I think it might have been a lunch or something after. And you're on the grounds of this big hotel, the Best Western there, and that's where it's been held since the 80s.
Right.
Right there. It's founded by Lucius Ferris, who did the UFO news clipping service back in the day, and just a great conference. A lot of famous people have spoke there. Skeptics as well as believers, people like Phil Klass have been there.
Right.
In times when it was, you can have Phil Klass and Stanton Friedman in the same room, right?
Right.
And you could have discourse. But anyway, I'm going to lunch, and there's a place at the top of the hill that is a little taco stand that is like authentic Mexican, and they have real Mexican Cokes. So,
which is awesome. Yeah.
So I went up there to get one, and I'm walking across the parking lot, just outside the front of the event, and somebody calls me. And it's like, "Hey, are you Michael Huntington?" And I turn and I'm like, "Yeah," because people have been hitting me up over the conference, and it happens. People see me on social media or on a program or something, and we talk UFOs or question, or they want to meet me, which is cool because that's what it's about. You're there to confer. You're there to make community and interact with each other. And there's this big fellow. I'm 56.
Right.
Almost 56. So he might have been in his 20s. He might have been in his 30s, or I don't know. But he was really big, like, football country, sort of big.
Farmer strong.
Like, yeah, definitely. Yeah. A Missouri boy.
Right.
I'm a Missouri boy too, so I recognize another Missouri boy. The type of, he looked like the type that would like be an insane clown posse fan, sort of that, big and tough, and I guess he when I say, yeah, I'm Michael Huntington, he turns and he like puts his cigarettes and his keys and his wallet down or something. I'm like, oh, okay. What's going on? And he's like, you know who I am? I'm like, no. What's up?
No.
So, he looked kind of perturbed at something. And he's like, well, I'm Rob Heatherly's son. And
wow.
Then he pops up,
yeah,
and moves in, and he's like, you want to say some shit? And he's getting louder, and he's screaming at the top of his lungs.
This is in sort of the main hub of this conference. He's screaming at you in the top of his lungs.
It's within feet of the front door. And
wow.
It's lunchtime, so
it's busy.
People around.
Wow.
And,
wow.
Yeah,
and does he put his hands on you? Did he put his hands on you at all?
Well, he does that. He does that pushing thing, and he chest bumps me, and he tries to corral me in, and I'm like, look, let's come over here and talk. What's the problem? What do you think? What's going on? You were saying shit about my dad. I'm like, what was I supposed to have said? And then he really got pissed, like,
of course.
And I'm like, dude, let's go find your dad and find out why you're angry.
Right.
And he's like screaming, don't try to calm me down, hey, fucker. And wow, call me a pussy and all this. And it's great when you go to a UFO conference and you have somebody just.
And was your son or your wife or any family around while this is going on?
Let me move the cat. Sometimes they're there, especially like if there's a break.
And, no, I'm saying like your family specifically. Were they there when he? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm talking about my family too. My father-in-law went on this trip. My wife, and my 3 boys, including our infant. And
wow,
they come into the conference. They weren't there at that time. They actually went to a zoo because Eureka Springs is kind of like a resort town.
Right. So the kids could go do their thing, and Dad's at the UFO con. Got it.
Yeah, and
drink.
But yeah, they weren't there. But they normally go there. You want, like, when they're coming to pick me up, because they want to go in and look at the alien stuff,
Right. Well, I'm glad they weren't there, is my point. I'm happy they didn't have to witness that.
Right. It's just sad and depressing.
Right.
But
right.
Anyway, back to the occurrence. I wasn't going to fight anybody.
Right. Of course you would.
I did not come to this event to like start a fist fight. For one, I'm a Buddhist. So I'm pretty passive.
Yeah, you're a pacifist.
If you want to beat me up, go right ahead.
Yeah.
If somebody tried doing something to my children, I will try to defend them. But
right.
I'm not going to fight somebody in public at a UFO conference. That's just the stupidest freaking thing.
Right.
And
all because you said his dad was gibbering about wiki conspiracies.
Right. Right. I don't know what the deal is. All I can think is I've also been speaking out quite a bit about the violent tone of things.
And then what happens? You get met with violent tones and blustering of threats.
I don't know what the deal was. I don't know if I was like baited into like starting a fight, because wouldn't it be great if like I like beat up a kid or something.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like-
A 23-year-old something. That's not a kid. That's a fully grown man.
Well, I mean, but anyway.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not going to fight anybody. I'm there with my family. We're in another state. We're on vacation. You know, I paid to come to this event. What would happen if somebody started throwing fists? You're going to get the police.
Right.
And the conference is going to ban you. They're not going to want you around if you're starting fist fights, right?
Right. Well, you would think.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. But
well, okay. So that was going to be my next set of questions. Is okay. So he gets in your face. He puffs up. He does the chest bump thing. He puts his keys down, postures as if he was looking for a fight. And how do you? Screaming at the top of his lungs. People are looking. It's awkward. It's weird. You're like, what the hell's going on? You try to pull him to the side to calm him down, but he's not for that. So how do you get out of this situation?
Well, I went to see his dad.
With him?
You know, I was like, dude, because, you know, I want to get to the center of the conference. I want to get to where, you know, at least the people running
you
the
feel
conference
safer. Yeah. Yeah.
What's going on, right?
Yeah. That makes sense. Good move.
So I bring him inside, and he's just kind of nervous and stuff, and he's like dropping stuff, and I don't know why he was so emotionally shook up. I didn't say a word. Literally, to provoke him. I was.
Well, you know what? I mean, it was probably he was probably in the hotel room with his dad or something, or at breakfast, and they saw the tweet come up, and then he got upset on behalf of his dad and went to find you. Was probably looking, hey, do you know who Michael Huntington is? Where is he? Where is he? Found you, and then took it upon himself to try and stand up for his dad.
Right. Which
is crazy.
Well, and you know, if you're gonna stand up for somebody, at least make it about something.
Right. Right.
Like what did I do, dude?
Yeah.
What did I supposedly say on Twitter that would result in you physically assaulting me at a UFO conference?
I've said some things about Rob Heatherly that I think are hilarious, but yeah, I wouldn't. If somebody punched me over the things that I said, I know for sure that I'd sue the shit out of them. I mean, it wouldn't even be a question.
Well, if he would hit me, he said he was going to lay me out.
Of course he did.
So,
yeah.
You know, if he would.
So he threatened you. He threatened you. He physically touched you. He intimidated you, which are all of these things could classify for assault, as far as I'm concerned.
Right, but I'm on vacation, man. I'm not there to like. So you know, I try to bring him in to his dad, and his dad's over.
Signing autographs for.
He's talking to some people, but you know, I go up to him and I'm like, "Hey, why is your son threatening to like punch me? What's going on?"
Yeah,
and he looks at me and he's like, "What was that bullshit you were saying about Trump?" And I'm like,
so you did rile him up. He did rile him up.
I'm like, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah, that has nothing to do with what's going on.
His son is like, "You're a effing pussy," you know, and he's like screaming it right there. And of course,
now you're in the middle of the convention.
I'm like, bye.
Yeah.
I'm leaving.
Yeah.
If you want to do something, do something. Otherwise, see you guys later.
Yeah.
So I turned around and I walked away. And that was it.
Wow.
And I'm not there to start a fight. I figured I'd let the right people know. I'm not there to disrupt the conference.
Well, did you let the organizers of the conference know, hey, I was just assaulted by one of your speaker's sons?
I have sent some messages. I did not want to do it while I was there because everybody likes to, well, let's bring so-and-so over here. And it's like, I don't want to be in the room with those people.
Right. Yeah. They're psychopaths.
I'm letting people know, and I put it on the record, you know, if anything happens. And these are like, these guys are just sort of out there with not just some of their ideas, but I don't know if you've interacted with some of them, but they seem to like have a group of them
Yeah.
within their veterans club or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that,
Rob
you know,
Heatherly blackmailed me for an apology for Lou Elizondo.
Well, I'm blackmailing him for an apology. You know, thank you for your service, but this is what you guys are going to do. You're going to bully
American citizens.
I'm a UFO researcher. Rob Heatherly's not a UFO researcher.
Right.
I've been doing research for 47 years. I was a member of AARO and MUFON. I've been doing this. I haven't had UFO burnout. I've been doing this every day since 1977. And you're going to come into a conference and you're going to threaten me because you think that I've insulted somebody who's part of this cause?
Right.
No, these are our UFO conferences, you know? You can't come in there wearing your political shit and then using these tactics. Thank you for your service, but going after Americans for free speech is un-American.
Right. Right.
And lying about it and downplaying it. I went to Rob Heatherly with his son, and he's just laughing. It's like, you know, what did you say about Trump? You know, it's like,
they didn't care.
If my son had threatened somebody with physical violence in a public place, let alone a UFO conference amongst people that are in our own community, I would be mortified.
But not only that, like, why would that be your first response? Hey, your son just assaulted and yelled at me in front of a whole bunch of people saying that I insulted you. Can you tell me what's going on? And the first things out of his mouth are, what did you say about this Trump shit? Like, okay, you're not even you're not even attempting to get at the core of what just happened. You are, if anything, you're instigating this to escalate even more. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw it as an intimidation thing. You know?
Pure intimidation.
Like, it certainly would have been a different story if somebody had been hit, because the cops would have been called, and it would have disrupted the conference, and it would have gotten around. Word is getting around. You know?
Well, of course it is. I tagged the Ozark UFO Convention folks, the publishing company, in this show because I want them to know that's fucking bullshit. Like, you shouldn't have your speakers assaulting people at your conference, no matter what their opinions are. And you should provide a safe environment. Like, to me, I think the thing, thank God your wife or your kids weren't there, because who knows how much more that might have complicated or escalated this issue. Because God forbid if somebody does that to you in front of your kids or your wife and demasculates you like that in front of people. Like, some men don't react well to that. Some men can say, okay, family, let's go on and get in the car and just get the hell out of here. And you're flipping a coin. You're flipping a coin. And that is dangerous. And let me ask you this. Are you going to next year's event?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's one of the UFO conferences that I go to.
Has anybody reached out to you and apologized for this?
No.
Or offered free tickets to next year's event? Because they should.
I'll pay my way. I don't care.
No. You shouldn't pay your way to that event, especially for as loyal as you've been to the event. Well, that's like, I'm sorry. Like, if I was the organizer of that event, I would have already have called you by now. I would have emailed you by now, and I would have extended you an invite with VIP passes for next year. Like, that's how you make up for incidents like this. And you also beef up security at next year's convention.
Well, yeah, there is an open door policy to purchase the convention, and that's definitely something that they should look at. At least pay attention to what's going on. If there are people telling you that there's somebody screaming outside in front of your event,
that's
maybe
a problem.
Go out and take a look, find out what's going on. If there's a rumor going around that somebody was threatened,
look into it.
Look into it a little bit.
I don't know why you would go back. I don't know why you would go back and spend your hard-earned money there for a place that hasn't even reached out to you in any formal way to say, "Hey, I'm so sorry."
Well, because here's the thing. if they try doing this sort of thing next year, and there is a distinct possibility because the Heatherleys live close to the venue. So it's easily accessible for them to get to. Word is that Lou Elizondo is going to be there. So I anticipate that all the, Lou people will also be in attendance. And I want to make a presence known, and I want to ask questions if he's there. And I want to challenge these people and see if, if we're going to go down like road of using violence and intimidation against people within our community. Is that how you want to destroy ufology?
Well, I would be, I bet they do. And I bet you're the bad guy at next year's convention. I'll put money on that, because what here's the thing that people, especially probably that who run that convention, aren't realizing is that man his ego has exploded because he's been taken under the wing and incentivized by Lou Elizondo. So therefore he thinks he has some authority within this community to do and say things like that, even extending that authority to his son. And next year, if you go there and Lou is there and Cahill is there and you do get to ask a question, which I would be shocked if you get to the microphone, I would document all of it. I would document every second of it and show how they're not letting you speak, and show how they are creating a violent and dangerous situation and encouraging it. Because if they are there next year, honestly, like, again, if I was the organizer of this event, I would have called Rob Heatherly and said, hey, that's fucking unacceptable. You're no longer allowed to come back to the event. And then I would have called Lou Elizondo and reached out to him and said, hey, we're never, ever, ever going to allow you the ability to just give your passes away to somebody or have somebody fill in for you. Like, either you come or you don't, but that's never happening again.
Well, I mean, if you're like wearing a Nanu hat and, you're doing a lot of this anti-debunker, anti-Mick West rhetoric, like up there,
right?
I think you're bought into certain narratives. My guess is they probably went to Heatherly and he just, like he did online, just like, oh, it's nothing, and nothing happened, and then he later is like, oh, well, my son he's his own man,
right?
All that sort of stuff. It's like, whatever, dude, you can have that reaction, that's fine. I do know that that's a conference that me and my family like to go to. Nobody should be bullied away from a conference for whatever view. I'm not a skeptic.
Right.
I'm a researcher.
I know. That's the part that kills me, is they should want people like you on their side.
Yeah.
That's the part that kills me.
Yeah, you lose me when you start talking about destroying ufology, because that's ufology is the study of UFOs. That's what I do, and it's also a community. And when I see people start saying that, and they start showing up now at these traditional conferences, and they're doing all this jackboot stuff, it's like, these are like people that have done like renditions, and it's like for some of us it's like scary,
right?
And we don't want to be paranoid. We want to be able to go there. So I have a lot of friends within the community, a lot of researchers that have reached out to me since, and they're going to come to Ozark. And there are people that have offered to be bodyguard, which is like,
that's great.
It's heartfelt, but it's also extremely freaking sad that you have to have an entourage to guard you physically.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't even use the entourage, because none of these guys will actually back up their bark is louder than is bigger than the bite. But I like the idea of you there showing up with an entourage and making sure that the questions that need to be answered are asked by everyone in the entourage. So that way, if they do try to block your access to the mic and ask the question that you want to get, that's okay. There's 15 people behind me that are going to get the fucking question in, whether you like it or not. So either you answer from me or you answer from one of them, but the question's going to get asked. I think that's valuable.
You're supposed to do.
Right.
You're supposed to do this at a conference.
Right.
You're supposed to be respectful and collegial and challenge people. And, you know, I think it's okay to ask of somebody like Cahill. It's like, you know, what people within the UFO disclosure activist community have you done remote viewing with?
Right.
And if he doesn't want to answer it, he doesn't have to answer it, you know, but there shouldn't be like, you know, this is a protected person.
Yeah.
Or you can't challenge this person because he's a
that's
hero or a veteran, or, you know, it's like, no.
Well, that's what it is. That's what it's become. Unfortunately, here in the last few years, it's become this hero worship. It's a hero worship. Right. And that's all it is. And that's what I started seeing. And that's part of the reason why I do not subscribe to anything anybody says anymore, because I haven't seen any evidence of it. And like I said, maybe one day we could have you back and you can present the best evidence that you think's out there. But as far as I can see, I don't, and taking my personal experience out of it, there is no scientific hard data that proves the existence that we're being visited by extraterrestrial beings. We know,
right? You know, and don't take your experience out of it. You know, I too have seen unidentified flying objects. I don't know what they were, you know, and I will probably never know, but it's still a fascinating thing.
Yeah.
It's still fun to speculate about. You know, that's one thing that I really miss. You know, I grew up in the whole 70s culture of UFOs. Everybody thinks 2017 was it, but
right.
No, in the 70s, you know, we had Hynek and people really trying to push some science and really questioning. It wasn't all perfect, and a lot of the stuff is explainable, but it's a fascinating culture with a rich history, and that's what I'm about. I'm about the history of the subject and the culture and the literature, and I think it's a legitimate field of study. It's not just one camp. It's not just the disclosurists. It's not just the believers or this cult or this group or whatever. We've had a pantheon of that stuff over the past 80 years.
Right.
I'm more legitimate than others. Some people just outright con artists. It's and I study all of that. And what I want, what I'm always interested in, and what I push for, and I try to do it honestly and fairly, is better discourse. And people, you know, if they do engage in this subject, to come at it from some sort of expertise. Right. You know, you can't watch Unidentified and read a Tom DeLonge book and then think yourself an expert.
Right.
You know, this is a big subject. So to learn the subject, know about it, and don't tie your own identity and your religion and your spiritual development into it, and look out for manipulators, and look out for hoaxers, and look out for con artists, and I guess look out for violent people.
Look out for Rob Heatherly's man-child. Michael, this was, thanks for coming on. I'll be in touch. We'll do a full 2 hours dedicated to just having this discussion. I don't want to call it a debate, because I don't think it would be a debate. It would be a fun discussion. I love researchers. I love old school research. I love the old school stuff as well. I mean, that's the stuff I grew up on. I grew up on In Search Of. I grew up reading the Gulf Breeze UFO book, which you're wearing a hat of. You know, like that book was the main thing that I compared my sighting to, was that craft, because that was the closest thing I had in reference to my brain as to what I saw. There's so much. You're right. It is rich. But for me, when I dive into even the deepest ends of this pool, I find that it's not as deep as I initially thought, and that there's just a lot of connecting the dots when there shouldn't be. There shouldn't be.
Right.
And so, you know, I enjoy having conversations with researchers like you. I don't even want to call you a believer, because I don't know if would you consider yourself a believer or just simply a researcher?
People ask me that, and it depends on what case.
Yeah.
And it depends on what interpretation of evidence and which witness. I do know that that there is some varietal phenomena out there worthy of us to explore and study. I think a lot of it is misidentifications, but there's something legitimate, and you can never close down that small, which I think if it does happen, it's extremely rare. Percentage of cases that are truly anomalous, truly interesting, and may represent something, but we still need the evidence.
I agree, but I also I am encouraged. I don't know if you're encouraged, but I have been encouraged from what I've seen from AARO so far, especially in this last week with them releasing proposed programs like Kona Blue and sort of deflating the conspiracy. Because like I don't know if you were watching earlier, but we had Richard Dolan already making Kona Blue into a real thing when it clearly was not. Right. But imagine if those Kona Blue papers were leaked as opposed to released. I think that the things that people would be attaching to this Kona Blue thing would be even crazier than what they're doing after it was released and admitted, hey, this was never funded. And there were reasons why this stuff was never funded, because it's pseudoscience, and we weren't going to waste another $22 million looking at basically the same thing that the same people were looking at before Kona Blue. So, you know, I think that, you know, for me, I do believe if there is something to this phenomenon, that if there is anybody on the planet Earth that has a good fucking picture of it, it would be the United States government. Like, it would be the United States government. And there's got to be something there. And I do have hope that the conspiracy aspect, the fueling of extreme thinking, like in cases of Rob Heatherly and his son, where the extreme thinking leads to physical altercations. I'm hoping that the transparency that we are starting to get from the federal government relieves some of that extremism, you know, because they're directly going after the guys who created the extremism in Mellon, Elizondo, and Cahill. So for me, that is comforting to know that, okay, these guys are on the government's radar. They're addressing all their claims directly, and they're doing it in a way that adds a lot of clarity and answers a lot of questions, still leaves a lot of questions on the table, right. But at least they're trying to quell the bullshit from what I can see. And that's nice to see. But, you know, if my fear is that people like Rob Heatherly are now screaming for things like catastrophic disclosure, and that's where my mind goes is to, okay, what does this crazy person mean by that? what is classified as catastrophic disclosure, and are you part of it? Are you going to be the person who makes catastrophic disclosure? And what does that mean? What does that look like? Because I have a feeling it's probably going to be a little more aggressive than doing the chest bump at a UFO convention. And that's my fear, you know, and actions like this, I think, are important to highlight. You know, this isn't drama building. This is actual action on somebody, and to highlight it and make people aware of it, so that way we could say, okay, here's the red flag. So in a year, if something worse happens, we could always come back to this moment and say, hey, we tried to warn you. And there were red flags coming up to this. Like, obviously that's not what anybody wants, but I think sharing stories like this helps hopefully prevent things like that.
Right. And I don't want to be on your show, like being like a victim or anything like that.
Right. And I don't think you've come off as a victim either, by the way.
And, somebody else could have just as easily have been there and said something negative on X and then have, this guy in your face. And I don't think it was me necessarily. I don't know. I don't know what the deal was, It was it was sad. It was just more than anything, because you anticipate going to these things and having fun.
Right.
And that's what I miss more than anything. When I was a kid, I read UFO comics and magazines and saw Close Encounters in the theater brand new. And it was fun. And it still is fun in a lot of ways when you talk to some of these old researchers and about the details of little cases. And I GPS position anomalous sites, and I go there and I visit, and I document these and I share with other researchers. I work. A lot of researchers are not on Twitter, as I've said, and they're doing stuff. They're working, they're documenting things, they're archiving, they're interconnecting, trying to build libraries, doing different things. They're not like threatening people or going off on, conspiracy tangents to try to minimize this debunker for this political strategy. It's just ridiculous.
Right.
But all of this is on record. All of this is going into the UFO history books. I say that to everybody. Everybody talks about, oh, this is historic. And it's like everything in UFO history is historic. All this goes into the bigger narrative. There's a bigger narrative for the entirety of this subject, bigger than just disclosure politics.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people with stories, and you have stories, and I have stories about behind the scenes, and all that will be part of the history.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I also agree that it's incredibly sad. And, I highlighted how sad Rob Heatherly is, with his interview on the Good Trouble show, talking about his WikiLeaks, and he's literally reporting it from a dump. It's just like, dude, like, I'm not going to sit here and be threatened by the guy who lives in a dump and is making up things to placate to what I can see is just somebody who's using him to create these extreme thoughts in his head. And then you couple that with Trump conspiracies and right-wing ideologies, or even, very extreme left-wing ideologies. Either one, any extreme of any of these ideologies, I think always leads to trouble.
It hurts. It hurts the subject, no matter what you're trying to do. If you're a disclosure person, if you think this helps your subject, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
And on the outside hearing this, they're like, those guys are freaking nuts, And if we're getting into the conspiracy violence type stuff, if we're getting into, Q posturing and the political stuff, it's like you're hurting ufology. Big time. You're destroying ufology.
Yeah. Well, that's what they've wanted to do, right? And I think a part of the strategy is turning it in on itself. And this is part of it. So, hey, Michael, thank you for coming on and spending more than the time that we thought we were going to spend on it. But yeah, it's an interesting story. It's something we should talk about. And it was one of the more surprising things that I've heard so far happen at a UFO convention. So I hope it doesn't happen next year. I hope Lou does show up. I doubt it. But if he does, I'm sure he'll be selling a book. And if he does, I do hope you have an entourage of people waiting to rifle direct questions at him, because I think, I would even give the questions to your kids. Like, was he going to yell at a 13-year-old kid? Maybe he will. But yeah, I appreciate how calm you were, and thank you for not escalating it, and thank you for not making it a bigger deal than what it actually was. Just bringing the facts and telling your side of the story. So I appreciate it.
Cool. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I love what you're doing. Keep at it. Keep asking questions. I won't agree with you on everything. But, we have honest conversations. Yeah. That's what we need to do.
And I have noticed throughout the years when these extremists do attack me, you're one of the first people there who are like, hey, you're being unreasonable, and here are the facts. And he's right. You may not like it, but he's right. And so I appreciate that, because I think that's the discourse that should be had. We should be able to determine, okay, this is grossly inaccurate, or this is accurate, needs more investigation. I think that's valuable for sure. So anyway, enjoy your weekend, Michael. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And like I said, I'll be in touch soon. We're going to have a longer conversation about, I swear, just UFOs.
Cool.
Awesome.
That'd be
all
great.
Right. Thanks, Michael. Bye. All right, guys, that was Michael Huntington. And that's the show. That was the show. So thank you, everyone, so damn much for being here today. Thank you for putting up with the technical issues that we had yesterday. I don't know how I'm going to put this on podcast. I'll probably just upload this episode, because the last two episodes, I don't think they're salvageable. Maybe we'll go over again the things that I went over already in yesterday's show, or two streams that failed. Maybe we'll talk about that stuff on Monday. But yeah, it's been a crazy week. And I have a feeling more stuff is going to be coming. I think we're going to learn more about these 40 whistleblowers. I think we're going to learn more about David Grusch and his relationship with the AARO office. I think we're going to get answers on Gimbal, Go Fast, and Tic Tac. I think more science is coming out of AARO. I can't wait to see the public hearing that will be coming. Should be coming sometime this summer. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about. So subscribe to the show. Hit the like button. Smash the share button. Tell everybody about the show if you enjoy critical thinking on the paranormal topic as a whole. This is the place for you to be. Again, I am insanely excited about the projects that I'm working on outside of Lube Reviews, but having very much to do with the topic of what I cover here. I'm so excited. I cannot wait to share it with you guys. It's gonna piss some of you guys off, but it's gonna make some of you guys super excited and stoked. So yeah, I cannot wait. I want to say thank you to everyone in the chat. Art and Paranormal, my mod, thank you so damn much for being here. I saw some people were getting out of line, and you put them right up in their place, so I appreciate it. Thank you to UFO Shane for the membership that he bought for Moondust here. I will try to keep it in my pants. James Craig, thank you for being here. Simon Fly, Mystery Eon, I do enjoy the show, fella. Thank you. Matthew Riot, who we had a great conversation with on Wednesday or Tuesday on our spaces this week. If you haven't checked that out, check that. Lou Angeles on Twitter. Go check out the space with Matt Riot. I think we put a nail in the coffin when it comes to UAP Mike and his influence and role in this community. And we also talked talk to other people as well. It was an interesting conversation. Go check it out. Anyway, you guys have a killer weekend. Again, please don't forget to smack the like, share, subscribe button, ring the bell. That way you're notified anytime we go live, which is every Monday and Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you really, really love the show, check out our Patreon link in the description below. It helps to provide you guys with 3 shows a week, which is essentially what we're doing. We're back to 3 shows a week. So if you appreciate that stuff, please check out the Patreon. It goes a long way. Thank you for embarking on this journey of discovery together. Stay curious, stay skeptical, most importantly. And thank you for subscribing to Lou Reviews. Until next time, thank you all out there for helping me raise the bar. Have a great weekend. I love you all. Peace out.